Elite Facts presents
10 menacing characters from films.
10.
Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. The world is a dangerous place. We're not safe walking alone on a dark night, we're not safe leaving our doors unbolted, and we're not safe taking help from a complete stranger. So logically, the only safe place for a person is in their dreams while they're sleeping at night, right? Wrong. Even in your dreams you're at risk, all because of a man named Freddy Krueger. Freddy was a child murderer in his past life before he was burned alive by the parents of Springwood. When he died, he was given the ability to invade people's dreams, thus allowing him to continue his reign of terror. Even the very first scene we see of Freddy is quite horrifying, as we see one of the supporting characters being chased down an alleyway by Freddy, who has elongated arms as a way to scare her off. Don't go to sleep, kids.
9.
Immortan Joe, Mad Max Fury Road. So it's safe to say that Mad Max Fury Road is an instant classic. All the elements are there to solidify its status as a classic. It has a well-written yet very simplistic story, interesting characters, amazing action sequences, and of course an imposing villain in the form of Immortan Joe. Immortan Joe is a tyrant who has control over most of the world's scarce resources such as water, bullets, and oil. If you even think of betraying him to take any of his resources, you can bet he's ready to come after you with an army and everything he's got.
8.
Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's see. It's a man wearing a mask made out of human flesh and carrying a big chainsaw. Leatherface himself essentially defined the slasher genre and paved the way for future slasher horror film characters to make their marks. The scary thing is that he's not the bad guy in the first film, as it was his family who were the ones manipulating him into bringing them human flesh. Leatherface is actually mentally disabled and only wants to make his family proud. Unfortunately, the only thing that seems to make them proud is when he kills wandering teens with a chainsaw.
7.
Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th. So, for argument's sake, if it wasn't for Michael Myers, we wouldn't have Jason Voorhees. That being said, Jason is definitely a more imposing figure. Just the sheer size, speed, and overall strength of him makes him one of the more imposing figures in horror, even to this day. Jason, much like Leatherface, is mentally disabled. However, unlike Leatherface, he focuses more on revenge rather than pleasing his family. Jason wants revenge on the camp counselors who let him down in Camp Crystal Lake years ago. Problem is, his deranged mother has already killed them all, and he doesn't realize it. Anyone who steps into the camp is seen as a counselor in the eyes of Jason, so no matter who you are, if you walk into Camp Crystal Lake, you're screwed.
6.
Norman Bates, Psycho. Arguably the man who started the entire slasher genre, Norman Bates may not be full-blown scary, but he's quite possibly the creepiest person on our list. How? Well, Norman Bates is a man who loves his mother just a little too much. Whatever his mother's voice in his head tells him, he either believes it or obeys what she says no matter what. If she says other women are trying to take him away from her, he'll give more of his attention to her than the woman he's going out with. He's that type of person. Now, what makes him menacing? How about the fact that he suffers from dissociative personality disorder, meaning that he has two completely different personalities, one of them being himself, and the other, well, his other personality is his dear old mother, who Norman killed years ago, and now he keeps her corpse in the cellar of the creepy house behind the Bates Motel. Yeah, don't check yourself into a small roadside hotel anytime soon. Also, avoid Vince Vaughn if you see him. The remake was just awful.
5.
Carrie White, Carrie. Kids, don't bully. Aside from it being wrong, odds are you don't know who or what you may be dealing with. Take Carrie White, for example. Carrie's not a bad girl, she just wants to be liked and blend in with the crowd. Unfortunately for her, the crowd at her high school doesn't accept her, and instead decides to bully her for their own enjoyment because she seems different. The decisive moment of humiliation in Carrie's life comes at the prom, when a couple of the bullies dump a bucket of pig's blood all over her and ruin the pristine white dress she's wearing. This gets Carrie a little mad, chaos ensues, and Carrie creates telekinetic havoc and death. We hope Carrie's classmates enjoyed tormenting and taunting her because they ultimately paid for their bullying with their lives.
4.
Hannibal Lecter, Red Dragon. Sure, Anthony Hopkins' performance in the original film was very memorable, but you've got to admit that now he's not exactly scary anymore, considering everyone at some point in time has done an impression of him. In Red Dragon, however, he is particularly menacing because even though he is incarcerated and can't dine on human flesh, he's still able to get to Edward Norton's character from behind bars. He's that devious and menacing. And the sight of him in the first sequel, Hannibal, from 2001, where he's feeding Ray Liotta his brain, is also pretty terrifying.
3,
Ellen Ripley, Alien. Let's be honest, you don't have to be an anti-hero or a psychopath or a villain to be menacing. Nope, and Ellen Ripley is a prime example. In a decade where women were still seen as either damsels in distress or just pretty love interests, Ellen Ripley came along and said, "Screw that," and acted like a total badass throughout the Alien franchise. Best of all, it totally works because instead of hiding or running, she grabs whatever she can find to defend herself and just kicks ass. It takes a whole lot of guts to stand up to a xenomorph. Don't mess with her.
2,
Jack Torrance, The Shining. As most writers will tell you, writer's block can hit you at any time. Well, unlucky for Mr. Torrance, his writer's block drives him mad, just as he and his family have been given the tedious task of looking after a hotel while the owners and staff go away for the winter months. Eventually, Jack snaps, grabs an axe, and goes on a hunt for his wife and son. We're not sure if it was how the character was written, or if it was how the movie was directed, or if it was just Jack Nicholson in general, but he was very terrifying in the film.
1,
Tony Montana, Scarface, 1984. He's unpredictable. Tony Montana is a coked-out loose cannon who cannot be figured out. Throughout the film, for first-time watchers, you see Tony go to lengths you wouldn't expect because he's so unpredictable. Take, for example, when he finds out that his best friend is going out with his sister after he said not to. You'd think he'd give his friend a beating or something along those lines. Nope, Tony kills his friend. That's how unpredictable he is, and that's how far he's willing to go when it comes to solving a problem. No one is safe from Tony, not his close friends and not his enemies. It's because of this attitude and unpredictability that he rises to power as fast as he does in the film.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.